Beautiful world. Do you know about gilding? You might have heard of it before. In permaculture, we talk about it regularly, somewhat, when we're talking about gardening. So what is a guild? Write down in the comments below what's a guild to you? Just what's the simplest way that we could explain to other people what a guild is? Maybe for me, simplest way is a guild is a group of plants working in cooperation together. Okay, just like maybe we can think of a commercial guild as a group of people in the same industry working together, textiles guild, all that kind of stuff. We can think of a plant guild in a similar kind of way. Each plant is an element in your environment, in your garden. And so we want to take a look at what they're actually doing, because if we're missing out on one element, then our environment is not going to be as diverse, and if it's not as diverse, maybe it's not as robust and resilient. And to be sustainable means we need to be able to adapt and to change. So we want to have resilient, diverse ecological systems as much as possible. So we can do this, and we can mimic nature by planting out our garden in guilds. So a guild, like I said, a group of plants that are working in cooperation. So how does that work? Right? Like, how does a group of plants, wouldn't they be in competition? They'd be all sucking the moisture from the soil. You plant too many plants together and they all want to use the same resources, then the vigorous plant's just going to win, isn't it? Right? Well, yes and no. It depends on the structure and what limiting factors you have put on certain species, or what encouragement factors you have put on certain species. So you're trying to find this balance, and nature kind of works. It's never at this stop point. It's always oscillating. So you in the garden, we're not trying to get a perfect, never-ending. We're constantly trying to go with the flow and see and work with what nature does. We are just a part of nature, and we are using nature as our guide. So this is a persimmon. So in this guild, we could say the persimmon is the canopy. There's different guilds for different environments. Not all plant guilds are going to have all different layers of a guild. Now, layers we can think of in a forest or in a diverse ecological system. Layers are the different types of plant species that we have. So we can generalize and categorize plant species into these different functions. Layering is categorizing plants in terms of function or in terms of habit, and just looking at what that function of that habit is. So persimmon. So persimmon is my tree here. It is my canopy layer. So this is my top layer, and I'm going to then plant plants around that as my top layer. Now we have another layer on top of our canopy. It's called an emergent layer, and we can just think of this as, in the forest, some taller trees poke its head just that little bit higher. Some what plants are palms, conifers. These things can poke their heads out the top of the canopies. Big fig trees could poke its head out of the top of the canopy. So these are the massive giants that just poke just a little bit above the canopy. The canopy is kind of the top, but if you're looking down over it on jungle, right, you would see all the canopy up on the top, and that's all the trees, top layer. So emergent sticking up above them, canopy is kind of all uniform across it, and then we've got underneath it, we got a understory. So under the canopy, understory. And we've got a midgeonberry under here. So this is a little shrubbery plant. So that can go under the persimmon. And this is grown on the northern side. And so the persimmon doesn't take away the sunlight from it. The persimmon's also deciduous, so we can play around with that quality in it. We got stevia under here, and this is a herbaceous layer. I'm not sure how deep the roots on stevia go. It's something that I would be interested to know. So if you know if stevia is a deep-rooted plant, please let me know. Or a shallow-rooted plant, either way. Then we have Brazilian spinach, and this is a ground cover layer. So what's this? We got shrub layer, midgeonberry. We got herbaceous layer with stevia. We have then a ground cover layer with Brazilian spinach. Then we have our really deep rooted plant in comfrey. It's also then a drop mulch plant because those leaves can break down and help us create really good soil. We have then chili. This is on the southeast side of it. And then we also have some lemon balm and some dianella. So this is our guild under our persimmon, and we've also got a mint there. It's stacked with a lot of different plants underneath that, by positioning and by what they prefer, they're not actually harming on each other in a way that you might think. They are supporting each other, because some of the plants underneath, they want that more shaded environment. They'll get cooked otherwise, so the canopy protects it. That subshrub, it wants a little bit more protection. That's where it's naturally grow. That's how it's evolved. So we're just kind of putting plants in their position of where they would naturally fit in, not out in isolation, not, planted individually out as if it's a botanic garden and we're, studying individual specimens in isolation. We are putting it all together and we are mimicking exactly how these plants would grow in nature, which makes them really vigorous and really tough and really resilient and really strong. So gilding is a way to develop a really resilient, sustainable garden, and it's really easy and it maximizes your yield, because then instead of one space where I could only grow the persimmon, right, I have now got how many more crops that I can do. And I'm also growing my own mulch there, so I don't have to buy in fertilizers. I can do it all just from planting appropriate gild for my needs. So think about it when you're planting out. Don't isolate, integrate rather than segregate. Permaculture principle, learn that one. Integrate rather than segregate. Get to know plants and animals in their natural characteristics so that you can mimic and you can help them to kind of be their own self, just like someone who would encourage you to be true to yourself. You might find would strengthen you and make you healthier and stronger if you were around people like that. Well, same with the garden. If we're in a garden where we are encouraging it to, the elements within the garden, the plants and the animals within the garden, to do what they naturally want to do. If we're encouraging chooks to go and scratch under the leaf litter and pick out seeds and insects, well, then that chook's going to be happy, and it's going to be, in that happiness, in that being able to do what it needs to do, it's also going to be healthy. And so we're going to be able to have much more healthier systems and be able to produce much more larger yields without kind of exploitation. So this is just using how nature already works. It's not anything significantly technical. It's just doing what has already been done and just not trying to fight it and say, well, that is a human mind, I know better and I want it all separated and I want it independent from each other. Join it together. Don't be scared. The plants work well together. In fact, growing a forest with all the elements in it together will grow your forest so much faster. There's a beautiful video on it. You should check it out if you don't know where it is. Hit me up and I'll see if I can share the link. Don't forget to like and subscribe and do all the good stuff. Thank you very much. This is about gilding. I hope you enjoyed. I can do more. Let me know. Have a good day. See ya.